first steps into a new South Africa.
The Nelson Mandela Museum is currently hosting a two-day international museum summit to mark the 20th anniversary of the museum in conjunction with the 30-year commemoration of the release of Nelson Mandela from prison. Local and international museums are making presentations on the significance of Nelson Mandela's legacy in and outside of South Africa. Lwandile Mbulali is attending the summit. Let's cross to him live.
Well, good morning to you and good morning to everyone watching at home. I'm broadcasting live from the Nelson Mandela Drive here in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. Behind me, it's a Savoy Hotel where the Nelson Mandela Museum here in Mthatha is celebrating 20 years of existence and also commemorating the icon that is Nelson Mandela since he was released from prison 30 years ago. The summit is a two-day. This is a two-day summit, and there are guests from across the world, coming from different museums across the world just to share ideas on how they can just keep on preserving the heritage of Nelson Mandela. Also, people and the family of the late Dada Nelson Mandela. But I want to take this time and introduce to you right now my first guest, who's coming from New York. I just want to know from him how they have been keeping and preserving the legacy of their museum in Africa. Sir, can you just introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm William Harris, the Deputy Director of the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library.
Okay, looking at the Nelson Mandela Museum and looking at your museum, what do you think they can implement here just to make sure that they keep on preserving the heritage?
Yes. Well, there are multiple things. Events like this, public programs, education programs that reach out to young people so that it's not history, but it's alive and living to them still today.
Looking at the evolving technology, how can that technology be used, to also promote the museums as well? Because people no longer go to museum nowadays, So how can the technology itself, how can it be used, to promote it?
I think having a strong online presence, either through having exhibits available in a walk-through way, as well as different types of interactives or engaging IT technology that does encourage people to come in so that they can see things that they wouldn't be able to see and experience the feeling of being here where President Mandela had lived and grown up and what the museum offers. You can't get that online. You can only get that in person.
In most cases, people from the surrounding areas don't really go to museums. Yeah. It's usually coming from different parts of the world who are actually interested in that museum, and what is happening there to learn about the culture and the heritage. How did you make sure that people, the locals where you're from, are interested in what is going on in your museum in America?
Yes, well, we face actually the very same issue, and what we do is remind the community frequently that we are a community resource, that the President Roosevelt was from this area. And so we have programs to the local public that engage about how President Roosevelt interacted with people in his community. And we also have community events like a family fair where we open the grounds and open the building to locals so that they come and recognize that we are like them, that we live there, that the President lived there, and we're part of that community.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, at this time I would like to introduce as well person of the Nelson Mandela Museum here in Mthatha. Sir, you have been engaging with these people. What have you learned as the Nelson Mandela Museum?
Yeah, as the Nelson Mandela Museum in this international summit, we have learned a lot because we are now engaging in a 5-year strategy where we'll want to also go digital. You'll be aware that our people, our visitors are more international and even nationalist, but who come from other provinces. So we'll also want to go digital and also to make access to the local people. Remember, to access our museum is free of charge. You don't pay a cent. You just simply come there. We show you the artifacts we have, the collection, because we preserve the Madiba legacy through heritage.
Well, today marks 30 years since Dr. Nelson Mandela was released from prison. Someone would be flocking at the Nelson Mandela Museum. These kind of events, do you promote them enough?
We do promote the event. You'll remember that this day coincides with our international summit, where we have invited museums, heritage institutions from all over the world, also in South Africa, so that they can come to Umtata to engage about museums' mandate, to engage about heritage, topical issues relating to heritage, and also we also invite learners from schools. We also invite members of the community to come and also celebrate this 30-year anniversary since the release of Madiba, so that our people can be able to see the significance of 11 February, the importance of it. But remember, this day also coincides with our 20-year anniversary. The museum was launched on 11 February, the year 2000. Today we are 20 years old, and we are celebrating our achievements, our milestone, and we have the last year we also received a clean audit from the Auditor General of South Africa, which shows to you that the museum leadership is stable, the museum is financial sound. We are doing all the things right so that we can be able to make our contribution to the community, especially the surrounding communities around Umtata, in the Eastern Cape province, and also other provinces in South Africa.
There is another museum in Gulu, in previous years. Is that the building itself is decaying. So how does the Nelson Mandela Museum here works with that museum in Gulu to make sure that they are preserved?
Remember, the Gulu Museum is our satellite museum. So now, close the site. We are busy with the renovation and maintenance, because we like that site to be where it is before. So we are busy renovating it so that people of Tunu can also have, and surrounding villages can also have access to the museum. So it's just now closed for a short period while we are busy with renovation. The contractors are already on site, busy at work, and it will be open soon, so that our people can be able to have access to the museum. And remember, we also have programs in our museum where we have public engagement programs, where we infuse public education to our members of the community to understand the importance of heritage, the importance of museums, the importance of their tradition, the importance of where they come from. So I think through the Nelson Mandela Museum, while we are busy promoting the legacy of Nelson Mandela, we also inspire confidence to the members of the public, so that they can be able to live in a society which is not violent. You will be aware that we are a country which has a challenge of gender-based violence, and we made a clarion call that let's protect our girls, let's protect our women, let's protect our children, because the children are the future of our country. So as the museum, we do have public education programs which are aimed at raising the scourge of violence against women and children.
Last question to you, sir. Looking at locals here in Umtata, looking at locals, the OR Tambo district at large, they know where the Nelson Mandela Museum is. Many of them now in their 30s, they have never gone inside to look at what is going on, to look at the archives at the museum. What have you learned so far that maybe you think you can implement to try to draw the attention from local people?
First of all, of our strategy, we also want to, wherein people can also have access to museum online, so that they don't necessarily have to come to the museum to see what we are offering. But nevertheless, we also have public programs, campaign, where we go to the community, we tell them about the importance of the Nelson Museum, what we offer, what we do, and how we can be able to contribute to community development. We do have those programs, but also generally our people are reluctant to come to the museum physically, but we have programs where we are engaging them, we're encouraging them so that to increase the, because remember, our museum is free, you can access it, you don't have to pay to come to Mandela Museum. So we are encouraging people outside there to come to the museum, see your heritage, see the what Mandela does and so on. Remember, we have gifts which Mandela was given when he was still a state president. We do have all the historical moments and so on. We'll invite our people to come there and also see what the museum is offering.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Lastly, I would like to introduce my last guest, Lwandile Mandela, just to look at the family of the late icon, and their role they play in preserving the heritage of and the history and everything to make sure that Nelson Mandela, lives on a lifetime. Lwandile, what role does the family play to try and ensure that the history, everything, the history is preserved at the Nelson Mandela Museum?
I think the family plays an important role by they themselves having their own programs that will reach out to the community and empower communities, whether it's been empowering young people, whether it's been empowering women or young girls. We have done a lot of work as far as our foundation is concerned, the Africa Rising Foundation. I know that you have the Zweleka Mandela Foundation, you have the Mandela Legacy Foundation. So within the family, there are a number of different foundations that do community outreach work that go into communities. For example, we have taken close to 300 young people in high school who have done computer courses. We've partnered with Oracle where they were able to get certificates. We have done agricultural programs. We have done career guidance expos with the Air Force, where the Air Force would come and land a chopper in our village, and you can imagine the excitement on the kids' faces. And it was a black pilot who told them his life story about how he became a pilot, promoting science and maths to people. So as far as the family is concerned, it's really about living the legacy, but living in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela and continued work that he did, because it's really about community at its very basic level where we need to do our work.
Looking at the Nelson Mandela Museum, both museums here in Qunu and here in Mthatha, what would you like to see happen? What would you like to see implemented, to ensure that these museums, are here for a generation and to the next generation as well?
First of all, I would like to see more young people being employed and being part of the staff of the museum. I would like to see more programs aimed at young girls and young boys. To be honest, I would like to see HIV/AIDS conscious programs. And I would like to see them digitizing these museums so that people far and wide can actually visit the museums and not only rely on coming here in a physical place. There needs to be a lot of interactive recreation that is created by the museums so that we can attract young people to come, because I believe that a lot of older people are already familiar with the story and the history of Madiba, but it's really about getting the young people and attracting the young people to come and be inspired by the life they lived so that they can actually reach out for the Nelson Mandela within them. I believe that we all have a Nelson Mandela. So we need to inspire young people and encourage them to become leaders in their own society, in their own.
So do you think maybe the Nelson Mandela, the history of maybe apartheid should be taught at school? There should be books written about these icons, from the museums as well, so that they can know where they come from.
100%, brother. I believe that our South African history is not taught enough in our schools. We need to have a very strong curriculum as far as South African history is concerned. When you go to America, and I travel a lot, they don't learn about South African history, they learn about their own American history. So we need to have our history centered in our history, learning about all the different characters, not just about Nelson Mandela. Walter Sisulu, Duma Nokwe, you understand, Albertina Sisulu. All heroines, need to be involved. Lillian Ngoyi, you name them. There are so many people who have dedicated themselves and their lives to the struggle who need to be mentioned. It's not just about Mandela, and Mandela will be the first person to tell you that I am tired of everyone naming everything against me as if I was the only person who was in the struggle. So we need to make sure our young people understand all the different characters who played a significant role, like Oliver Tambo, in our political struggle.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Daba Mandela here at Mthatha as we celebrate 20 years of the Nelson Mandela Museum, as well as since the release of Utata Nelson Mandela. Well, you've heard it from them. There's much that needs to be done to ensure that local people, go to museums. But now people from Mthatha, some of them have never gone inside, but they walk on that street on a daily basis. The museum in Ikunu. So there's much that needs to be done by the museum itself to ensure that they preserve the history of Utata Nelson Mandela. From us, Twangam Kubas and me, Lwandile Mbulali here at Mthatha, it's back to you in studio.
Mandela, free man, takes first steps into a new South Africa.